What's up, everybody? Shawn here with another Live to Roll. We're back with another awesome episode on Tuesday here. We got a cool guest for you guys today. It's going to be a fun week, getting close to Christmas. It's just a nice time of the year. I'm Shawn. I'm a C5, C6 quadriplegic from a snowboarding accident 19, almost 20 years ago now. Tom or Bobby,
Bobby.
you want to go ahead and take it?
I'll go ahead, no problem. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back. Live to Roll. I'm Bobby Rohan, C5, C6 quad as well. 34 years, and I'm right around the corner too of another year coming up. So take it away, Tom.
And welcome everyone. Tom Conaway, C6B quadriplegic for the last 26 years. And that's enough about us because you hear about us all the time. We're here to talk to our friend Angel. We got a chance to meet and hang out with in Arizona. And he's here with us today to talk about his story, talk about his experience, kind of unique rehabilitation experience, which is something that is probably one of the topics that I'm most interested in is how people around the world kind of navigate their disability and go through rehab and stuff. And then we're going to talk about Angel and who he is and what he's doing. But I'm going to toss it over to you, my friend. And we first off, just thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Angel Frost, and yes, thank you for having me on here to Live the Role. Like you said, we met over in Arizona at the Abilities Expo, and I was really stoked about what you guys are doing. And thank you again for having me on. I am a T10 complete paraplegic. I'm actually a youngster compared to you guys. Dang, I'm complete. I'm coming into 5 years in January.
Okay.
January will be 5 years for me. And the experience has been pretty wild. So I had my accident when I was 40 years old. So going that time and then jumping into this situation has been, uh, it's been interesting. Let's just call it like that. Um, so my rehabilitation here so right now I'm in Ensenada, Mexico, is where I had my accident. It was I was on a razor, and the razor had a mechanical failure. When I was driving on the road, the back swing axle broke and almost threw me and my kids off of a mountain. And instead, I went off to another side, flipped the car, and I was ejected out of the car. Went flying about 30 feet. Woke up after being concussed, and took off my helmet. Wanted to go check on my kids, and when I tried to move, I realized I couldn't feel my legs anymore. In that moment, I realized that I was a paraplegic. Like within the first few minutes, I was like, I'm a paraplegic. But knowing that my kids were okay, that were in the car with me as well, gave me a sense of relief. It's really weird. Even in the hospital, when they were taking me when they were diagnosing me and going to put me into the CAT scan to see how bad the injury was, I was telling my kids, I was joking with them, and I was telling them, "Hey, X-Men is coming out in a few months. Don't worry. If I'm stuck in a wheelchair, I'm going to cosplay Professor Xavier, so it's going to be cool. I'll already have a wheelchair, and I won't have to rent one."
That's the attitude to have for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really amazing perspective to take. Like, it's just as you mentioned before. I mean, interesting is a good word to describe it because, recovery and acceptance and rehabilitation, it's good, it's bad, and it's ugly. It's all of those things. Like the milestones can be great, but also the obstacles and the hardships and the pain and all of it is, it's difficult. But having gaining that perspective and being able to kind of maybe even see the glass half full, right? Because things could always be worse. You're wearing a helmet, your brain's okay. Like thankfully with technology and medicine and modern medicine these days, overcoming physical injury is not an easy thing, but it's a possible thing. And a lot of independence and function and stuff can be, rediscovered and, taken back. But having that perspective of, things can certainly be worse, and being grateful for what you got is, something that can be difficult to learn for some. And it sounds like had that pretty early on, which is a very awesome thing.
Yeah, when after the accident, I kept hearing that all the time about how positive I was. I went into so when I went into rehab here in Mexico, it's it's definitely not where you have in other countries. I'm speaking primarily U.S. that I know the most about.
Um,
Um, in Mexico, it has again every place I believe has its pros and cons. Here, the government gives a little bit of help, but not that much. So they are because they have limited space, limited assistance, limited resources. They're really a matter of like, okay, let's get you in to do what you need to do, and then let's get you out. And so when I went in there, they take you through a series of things that I don't know if this was the same for you guys. Um, but after my accident, the first thing they did is they put me in with a psychologist. So they want to assess how you're doing, if you're depressed, if you're, how you're taking the whole thing.
yeah.
So I went in with the psychologist and he talked to me and he asked me, the first thing he asked me is like, hey, what happened? And I said, well, I really don't know why I'm here, doctor. I said, I'm nothing's wrong with me. I'm just in a wheelchair because I got really drunk last night and I can't get up right now. And started laughing, and he was just like, so then he went on and asked me, and I told him the whole story, exactly the way it happened and everything like that. And he was like, okay, so this happened to you 2 years ago, 3 years ago? And I said, no, this happened to me last month. And he was like, this happened to you last month and you're laughing about it and joking about it? He's like, I've never had anybody come in with that mental attitude. And I
Yeah.
said, well, shit, life isn't over yet. And, I need to just keep going. My kids, you know, I think that was the key. I think that was the key to my recovery. Um, or, yeah, I want to call it my recovery. Is that the people around me did not treat me like I was disabled,
Yeah.
especially my kids. My kids did not give me one chance. Like they didn't come and be like, "Oh, dad, like, are you gonna be okay?" No, they were just like, "Dad, I need this. I need to go here. I'm still missing this one." And I'm just like, "Okay, okay, okay. Let me take care of this stuff." You know what I mean? From my bed. You know what I mean? I'm like making phone calls, and then I'm like, the doctor came for to get me in, teach me how to transfer my first wheelchair, and he was like, hey, I can't get there till tomorrow. I'm like, you know what, my wheelchair's here, I got to get out of here because my kids need me to do this and that and the other thing. And that really helped in my rehab. Is not,
Yeah.
no, people not allowing me, I call it like that, people not allowing me to be disabled.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how old are your kids?
Actually, my son just left to college, so I am now living alone. And my son he graduated from high school, and he just moved to Sweden.
So they were up
Amazing.
in their upper teens and stuff like that. So
Yeah, yeah, they're in their upper
probably
teens.
helps a little bit. They have an understanding that hey, he's okay. Where when you're younger, under the age of I don't know 12 and under, I can see where it can be a lot harder on kids. No matter what, you don't want to see anybody of your parents or family members or friends be injured like that. But I'm glad they didn't, treat you like we see sometimes, where it's a little overbearing and stuff like that. And it's great to have a good. I mean, they could have been like, Dad, this, and you could have still been boo hoo. Do you think by you not being boo hoo, of being depressed about it because of being active before, or you just any reason why you've just felt like you were okay and you're just going to move on, except with two wheels or four wheels underneath you?
Yeah. So yes, absolutely. So before it was really weird. So at 37, I came into 37. I was like, you know what? 40 years old. I've never exercised in my life. I've never been that guy. And I just hit the gym. And I was just like, I was in the gym 2, 3 times a day, for 3 years, and I was just in the best shape of my life. And then boom, 40 years old hits, and bam, I have this accident, you know. I've never really been a people that know me, I've done charity work almost all my life. I built haunted houses since I was really young, and I've always done that for charity. Actually, right before the accident, I do special effects, so I had dressed up as a Grinch, and I was doing a storybook time with the kids, and this was like a week before my accident. And so yes, by I think that I think that we are more disabled up here than we are in our body. And we allow ourselves to be more disabled, you know, by people not treating me, by not boohooing me, and more so, not just not boohooing me, but again, I'm gonna say this to not try to sound bad, but they almost like, "Come on, Angel, what's taking you so long?" You know what I mean? Like, "Come
Yeah.
on, like, hey, do it faster, or what's wrong with you?" You know, that kind of thing. Not in a mean way, but it was like this thing where it's just like, "Oh yeah, then I'm gonna do that." You know, just kind of that kind of.
No. And I had the same attitude, Angel, when I got hurt. I mean, I had a moment of, my tears and just like, but it was more, all right, let's just, I want independence. Give me independence first. And they're like, well, walking, don't give me walking, give me independence. Well, and when I get independence, then we can think about that down the road, which eventually I started going, well, it's all about independence right now because walking doesn't look like it. So that's a good attitude. And, and mine was from having a sports background, but interesting that you didn't have any of those backgrounds. You just, you took it as a fresh start, and that's you don't hear that too often.
You know, it's funny. I try to share. You know, I've shared my story quite a few times. You know, and again, I tell people, you really never know how you're going to react to something like this happening. You know, and even to telling you, like, I went into Scripps in California, and I
Okay.
met with the top neurosurgeon there, and he was like, I mean, in a nutshell, he was like, "Angel, you're never gonna walk again," and I'm like, okay, anything else? I was like, all right, well, thanks. I got stuff to go do. If you're done, I'm out of here. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
most people I think would kind of be like, you're never gonna walk again. Like, oh my god, my life. I was just like, yeah, all right, yeah, okay. So what's the bad news? Like,
Yeah.
you got anything else to tell me? Like,
Mm-hmm. That's good.
um, well, I mean, sounds like you had a lot to, motivate yourself for, your family, your kids and stuff. And that's certainly, like a hugely motivating factor to pushing yourself and get back. And it doesn't sound like they coddled you too much again, which, can be a really good thing. Like when I really started to like push for my independence and stuff, my family like really did help like enable me to be independent. And, they like motivated me and pushed me too, in healthy ways that, I was like, all right, Tom, like, let's go, like clock's ticking, like we gotta go, and it's that can be, I think, a very good and healthy thing. What have been some hard parts about your rehab? I mean, what, if you don't mind talking about it, like the things we talk about a lot on this show in particular, the mobility, I think, is probably one of the easier things to overcome these days, with accessibility being in most places, wheelchairs, modern things like that. But, bowel and bladder function, like Losing that can be really, really hard. Having to go to catheterizing or managing your bowel care in a different way is, very, very difficult. Loss of sexual function sometimes, rediscovering of that, and the list goes on. But those are just a few examples. But has there been any particularly hard bumps in the road that you've been able to overcome, or maybe even still struggle with?
So yeah, like you said, not walking was actually the easiest of all of them.
Yeah.
Um, I think the hardest thing for me, and I've even said this to people, I'm like, you know what? I really don't care if I ever walk again, but if someone could come up with something that can tell me that I need to go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
I will be happy with that. Like, screw my legs, keep them if you want. I'll even trade them just to
Yeah.
know when I need to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, the catheterization, stuff like that. Now, in the beginning, it was really so I am that type of person. I come from that type of family where, and everybody's different, but I just grew up in that family where even if you wanted to pass gas, you would say, "Excuse me," then you go to the bathroom and pass gas. You know what I mean? Or if you did by accident, it was like, "Excuse me," that kind of thing. So for me, it was really hard when I would pass gas, because I can't control it. Um, go number two, I call it, or even pee myself. Peeing myself, I started to get used to, but um, so I remember in the very beginning when I did this, I don't know if I think the moment it really hit me was when I was getting I had my ex was actually trying to help me shower, and so I was doing a cowboy shower as we call it, on the bed, and
Mhm.
I couldn't get into my shower, and so she was giving me a cowboy shower, and I felt like I had just cath, and so she gave me, we're almost done with my shower. I'm turning over and boom, I start urinating all over myself. And I'm just like, son of a, and I just started crying. I just started crying. And it wasn't a sad cry. It was almost like this frustration cry where I could not stop. And she was so sweet that she just kept cleaning me, kept showering me, and and she knew just not ignore me, but just let me do my thing. And I found that to become my new secret that I share with people. And I tell them I have a secret. And what it is that I do is that once a month, at least, if I haven't done it before, at least once a month, maybe even twice a month, is I'll sit down in a quiet place and just cry. I'll just cry, just let it out. If I have to watch a sad movie or something like that, I just cry to let all that frustration out. And it's not even like I don't have to cry. I don't have to think about something. I just cry. It's just all that built up frustration. And it really helps. Man, it really helps a lot because there's so many little things that so, for example, here in Mexico, we do not have the regulations the way they are in other countries, especially like the United States.
Uh-huh.
In Mexico, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, as long as you paint the sidewalk blue, it could be 10 feet high off of the ground, but as long as it's painted blue, that is a disabled spot.
Uh-huh.
So I'll give you an example. So there are very few restaurants that I can actually go to here where I live. Only be unless I time it perfectly where I cath right before I go in, don't drink any alcohol, or I have accessibility to my car where I can go jump in my car, cath, and then jump out. Because unfortunately, and I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but when I drink alcohol, it goes right through me like watermelon. You know what I mean? Like if I drink alcohol, it's just like within
I get a
5 minutes, I
cast
gotta
at
go to the
30
bathroom.
minutes after I drink a
Yeah,
beer, like
just
week.
like
Yeah.
super fast. So if I go, I have to be like, okay, I'm not gonna drink anything. I'm not gonna have any alcohol. And I'm like, what the hell? What am I even doing here if I'm not gonna have my, a glass of wine or something? And so what's crazy is even restaurants that are brand new being built. I swear to God, I went into this bathroom, and this bathroom was big enough for about five of us to fit inside this bathroom. It was huge. It was just like I could probably have had skating contest inside of this bathroom. And I was so excited. You know what I mean? It's crazy how excited you get over a bathroom. So
Yeah.
I go in there, I'm ready to go in the bathroom. The bathroom to go into the actual like bathroom, big giant door can get in. Great. I see all the stalls, I see all the thing. There's the handicap stall. It's super huge, brand new wood, beautiful. The door was about 23 inches wide.
Wow.
For
And
the
I'm just
stall, for
all I could do was just look in the bathroom. I was just like, well, it looked like it could have been nice, you know. That's all I could do. I couldn't get in the bathroom. So I'm like, they went through all that trouble to make it big. They put the handrails, they put everything in there, but could not put a door that was at least 36 inches.
So
so
I mean, I'm sure like if anybody, if you visit the U.S. or just here in the U.S., like most the ADA is pretty good when it comes to bathrooms and at least door widths for most public spaces. Like there are certain stalls like that open the wrong way. And like I don't know, just like what you said, like it'll be like the right size or something, but because the door like swings in or something, like it can make it like sometimes inaccessible or like it swings all the ways out. So like that's my biggest problem is once I'm in the stall, if it like doesn't like have a heavy hinge and swing back and it swings all the ways out, I can't reach it to like even pull it close. So it's like, what the hell? Like what the point is, even having it, right? But uh, that's they don't have like a ADA or at least like not meaningful regulatory agency surrounding like accessibility in Ensenada.
I don't think they
No.
have
No, they
anything.
don't. Unfortunately, they don't have like a, you know, they have. So I have been slowly trying to fight for those rights here locally, if going in there and telling people, hey, even down to where it's the same thing. Unfortunately, when I go to California, everybody has, if they have depression, they get a handicap sign. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, at
Yeah.
least save us ones that have that space so that we can be able to open the door and get our wheelchair off of the car.
Wheelchair only. I
And
got you.
but here it's even worse. Here I got in an argument with a lady because she didn't have a handicap sticker, and she said that she needed the space because she had a stroller and because she was pregnant. And I'm like, you know what? I don't even care. Like from me in the very beginning, I remember when this first happened to me, I didn't even want to park in the handicap spots. I was like, you know what? Why? I love exercise. I'll park 10 blocks away and just roll where I need to go. What I
Yeah.
found is my biggest problem is because I drive my own car. So what I found is my big problem. So one day I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna park over in this spot. I'm not gonna take up a handicap spot just in case somebody else needs it. So I pulled into the regular spot, got out of the car, went into the grocery store, came out with all my groceries on my lap, and I get to the car and someone parked right next to me. Again, not wrong. They parked exactly as it was supposed to, but I realized why I needed the handicap spots because I can't open the freaking door to get back in my car. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh my. So I sat there and waited, I think probably 15 or 20 minutes outside behind my car, waiting for the gentleman to come to move his car out that was next to mine for me to get in.
yeah.
So, it's things like that where um, we start to see where these regulations and nowhere. I think everywhere in the world, um, and I've been talking to certain people, and because I started to post because I travel alone too. So I go to like hotels and I go to all these things by myself. I drive there, I fly there, and then I stay in the hotels in California, in Arizona, and different places. And I try to post what happens in there, and it's really weird and it's really funny how we don't have more people who are actually disabled who are like sitting there checking these regulations. Like they have somebody who is able-bodied to put together. Like in Arizona, I sent the hotel where I stayed at, um, big giant. I stayed in an ADA room. I wanted to take a shower, and where I put the seat down at, the shampoo and everything, because the bathroom was so big, they put it on the opposite side of the shower. So the shampoo and conditioner and everything was almost 5 feet away from where I was sitting, where I had to sit the shower at. And
Yeah.
I'm like, so they do a lot of ADA stuff, but like what you're saying, Tom, is that they
Little thing.
don't have somebody who goes back and says, "Hey, I'm in a wheelchair. How in the hell am I going to reach that thing over there?" You know what I'm saying? It's like, how hard is it to just get someone? I mean, damn, we're everywhere. Get us,
It,
stop us outside. We'd be more than happy to be like, "Hey, can you come and check this thing for me and see if you can actually get in it?"
it's getting
I
a little bit better. I know some individuals where that's part of like what they do professionally is they like consult. They do consults like that. They consult with architecture groups or like meaningful like state like regulatory agencies surrounding like building development and stuff like that to just ensure the little things, like all the little things. Um, and yeah, there are just too many of them still. And I can only imagine, I mean, we do have some like international audience too. Like, I feel like I don't know, anywhere where they're developing kind of more modern infrastructure, like building newer buildings and stuff. I hope that they at least keep it in mind. But it's just like they'll build a beautiful, accessible bathroom with a 23-inch doorway,
And
and it's like okay, it just defeats the whole purpose. Whereas like if they just talked to one person in a chair, obviously, they would have had that question answered, and that oversight would have been handled. But how was it rehabilitation wise? Did you do your rehab in Ensenada as well? And there's and my other question too is, I mean, I want to hear about the rehab and the hospital experience, but also, is there a community for individuals with disabilities down there? Do you know other people with SCI? Is there like any kind of group or support for other individuals in chairs that meet and support one another?
Um, so my rehabilitation was it was awesome. I think I'd have to use a word like that. So here's where we go again into pros and cons. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so in California, in the United States, people are so afraid of getting sued and everything like that if they do something wrong. So they are very touchy on what they actually will help you with. So it's very like, and again, it has its pros. They're very by the book. Here's how we do it. You know what I mean? Instead of using sometimes some of these older techniques that are just not used anymore, only because they're not, they're afraid of someone coming back and saying, "Oh, you know what? He hurt my feelings," or you know what I mean, or whatever. So it's a really funny story. I'll tell you really quick. So I went into rehab. They signed me up, and I was going to go do my rehab here in Mexico. And so I went there, and I saw the two people that were there doing the rehab. And one of them, she looked like the principal from Matilda. She just looked like this lady from Russia that
With
was about
Principal.
12 feet
Yeah.
tall and looked like a bodybuilder. You know what I mean? I'm just like, holy cow, this lady's gonna put me through the ringer and kick my butt. You know what I mean? And then there was this little girl. She was probably about 5 foot tall. She probably weighed about 16 pounds. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and she just had the sweetest little look on her face. And I'm just like, oh yeah, that's the girl I want. You know what I mean? Like I want that one. She can't. I'll walk all over her.
yeah.
Yeah. So I went in there and I was just like, I'm like, hi, she read my file and everything like that. And she's like, oh, Angel, oh, it's good to have you here. We're so excited. We're going to take you through your rehab. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. She had the sweetest little like Mickey Mouse voice, you know what I mean? And everything. And then once our time started, she's like, okay, you ready? And she was like, all right, now you're going to. And I was like, oh my God, who is this chick?
And then you're watching the other ones being all nice during the rehab. Are you okay? Can I get you water? Yeah. That's I had a
Yeah.
I had a
I
therapist
swear to
like
God, this little girl made me cry, man. Like, there's videos of me crying. She was just like, if you don't get across this thing right now, I'm gonna make you do 5 more. And I'm just like, no, 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 And I'm a 6'1" guy. I'm not a small dude. You know what I mean? I probably could have put this girl in my pocket. But oh man. And then when we were done, she was just like, Angel, you were so good. We'll see you next week. And I'm like, oh man, what is this girl? Is she like bipolar or something?
She just means business when she's doing rehab, man. That's good though. That was probably a great
Oh,
therapy.
it was
and
awesome, man.
But she was your physical therapist. She was
She was
your
my therapist.
so in Mexico, do you get physical, occupational, probably not recreational? Do they have speech? And I'm sure they have speech therapists there.
Yes, so
Obviously, you
they
didn't need that type, but
yeah, they do. I only experienced the physical therapy. They don't have they don't have like the um, you know what? To be honest, I'm not gonna quote that because the only thing that I went through was just physical therapy.
they just yeah.
That's what they recite had me do. Um, but
So
the
who
go ahead.
works with you on the dressing? Was that PT then? Do they with dressing and your bowel care and your uh,
No,
cat?
so I had to actually go to for my bowel care. I went to a urologist, and he's the one that taught me how to cath myself. He's the one that taught me. Well, they actually wanted me to put a full time cath, and I was just so afraid because I was so active, and I had one experience where I kind of had a jerk on it, and so I was like, "Oh shoot, you know what? I'm scared of doing this." So I opted to do a self cath, which I've been doing for the last almost 5 years. Um, but as far as dressing and all that kind of stuff, that was kind of a learn myself kind of thing. All they really were teaching me there at the physical therapy was just how to work on my movements, how to
Balance
get around. I
transfer.
did, yeah, transfers. Yeah, when I got there, I had only when I started my physical therapy, I think I'd only been in my chair for a couple of months. And so I went there and I had bought a transfer board on Amazon, and I still use to this day for the car.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm using a transfer board to transfer over to the platform that she had set up right there for me to go on. And I was like, "Oh, let me grab my board." And she's like, "Oh, you still use a board?" And I'm like, she's like, "You can't jump transfer?" And I'm like, so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, "Holy cow, am I so far behind that I can't jump transfer?" I'm like, "All right, get the board out of the way. I'm gonna do this."
Were there any
Yeah,
other individuals?
Shawn and I don't use a transfer board.
Yeah, but that's
If
still
you
wild that you were that far. They're talking like you're behind, but dude, you're starting PT 2 months in and you're already transferring. Like, that's
um,
yeah, that's pretty good. Go ahead, Tom.
if you do use a transfer board, no shade. The best way is the way that works. So that's interesting. That was one of their tactics, or what they questioned like you using your transfer board. But were there any other individuals with spinal cord injuries during rehab while you were doing rehab? Is it like a rehab facility for individuals with SBI or similar mobility disorders? And like, did you go from the hospital to rehab, or was it all kind of a part of the same place?
Yeah, so the rehab that I went to, so there was only so it's not very big, so it was only two people per session. The other person who I had, who was with the other instructor while I was with my instructor, he was there. I think he had cerebral palsy,
Oh,
and he was going through his physical therapy, which was different than mine. He was
yeah.
using different machines that they had there, um, and so everything is kind of done in the same area. Uh, and it's not a very big facility, and it's actually like part of the public. Um, um,
Clinics.
place. Yeah, it's like a public place. It wasn't part of the hospital. The hospital where I actually went and they did my surgery was a local private hospital here.
Okay.
Um,
And
I still
rehab
had
was in Encinitas.
in Ensenada, right, in Ensenada, Mexico. And the one cool thing is that I do, even to this day, I still have a lot of communication with my with the neurosurgeon and the spinal cord specialist. Um,
So
and
you do have a spinal cord injury specialist. Is it like a physiatrist? Do you know their particular title?
no, I
Yeah.
don't.
I mean, so generally, there's like two types of spinal cord injury doctors: neurologists and then physiatrists. Neurologists, they'll usually like specialize in the spine, surgeries and stuff. A physiatrist is um, he's like a rehab specialist, specializing in physical medicine. So the ones that can like vary from like pain management and stuff, and lots of different mobility disorders, and then there's individuals that specialize in spinal cord injury, and they're kind of diamonds in the rough. There's only a few hundred that graduate every year, so they kind of generally get spread pretty thin, at least here in the states. But it sounds like that you talked to at least a neurologist or a physiatrist who was a spinal cord injury specialist, which is great. Like that's awesome. That's who generally initially introduce you to the bowel program stuff, the catheterizing stuff. And I don't know how the healthcare structure works there. I'm sure it's pretty similar here, but I don't know. I spoke to a lot of nurse practitioners. There were like nurses that worked with the doctors that helped educate me and my mom and my dad in the catheterizing, in the bowel care, in like things like that. Um, and yeah, so just to provide a little context for anybody listening,
yeah,
some of the
I
titles,
didn't.
some of the different people we're talking about here and stuff, it can all be very complex. And there's so many different layers to like rehabilitation and recovery, because there's like your doctor who helps just with your health and getting back and, like getting your health back, but then there's the rehabilitation specialists who like help with rehabbing your independence and getting you back to kind of normal independent function. But it sounds like you receive some pretty good services, and they're pretty like good. Now my other question is it like social healthcare, socialized? So do you have to pay out of pocket? Do you have like insurance, or how does that all work in Ensenada?
The hospital was paid out of pocket for my surgery, and so I did have to do. It took me a while to pay that off and to raise the money to pay for um, that hospital visit,
If you
especially
don't
since
mind me asking, like how much are we talking?
it
Like,
was
did not answer to.
$58.
around 42, 43
Thousand.
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 Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
I
they,
mean that
and
is a
that
lot.
there's obviously no discount or anything like that because you're paying cash. Do they? So insurance over there isn't very common. Health insurance.
It is, but I wasn't. Again, nobody really thinks this kind of stuff is going to happen to them. You know what I mean? And then I could have gone to a public hospital where I would have gotten a lot cheaper. I could have done with my insurance, but at the private hospital is where I could actually call these two particular doctors that I knew. And one of them, he is the top neurosurgeon here in Mexico, in all of Mexico. And the spinal cord doctor was one of the best spinal cord doctors that I had heard of.
Yeah.
So they both came in and physically did the surgery on me. And for me, it was like, hey, if I want an opportunity, I'd rather go for, hey, I don't care if it takes me the next 10 years to pay it off. I
I
want
want
that
the best.
opportunity. That opportunity is there. I want to be able to have
Yeah.
it. So,
And
uh,
and that included everything like your stay, the 40K. Did that
yeah.
include your
It's
stay and
actually
everything?
not bad at all
Yeah,
compared.
now that I think about it, I'm like, for a surgery here and a couple nights stay in a hospital is well over 100 or 200.
Hey,
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that
I'd
might
say.
even be a deal over here. What you
Yeah.
see, your,
No, no,
real.
and that was my stay. That was all the medicine. That was the food. That was him taking care of me 24 hours. And that was, I think, I was in the hospital for about 7 days.
Mhm.
I could have been out on the third day, but
Like
they were watching my drain tube to make sure there wasn't any spinal fluid and stuff like that in there. Make sure that my recovery was going okay.
that was
And
And
then
7 days post surgery. You were released from the hospital.
and you go
Wow.
home and you went home.
yeah, I went home.
Yeah, so it's a lot different here where most of us just go from ICU into rehab after, there's no going home because once you go home here, your
You're on
They
insurance
your
won't
own.
pay for rehab.
Yeah.
And, and there we do have Christina. We got to get into you probably next time, but doing rehab 10 years later, she said. So you go home for a couple months before you go to rehab. What is that like when you're home and here you are
No,
now,
actually,
newly
so
injured, no training on bowel care or catheters, or
so
very little probably.
I actually came home, and then so one of the nurses from the hospital, I hired again, because that's one of the pros here is you can get a lot of things inexpensive. So I had one of the nurses come to change my dressings once a day just to check it and change my dressing on my back.
Uh-huh.
And then I through the contact of my neurosurgeon, he recommended me a physical therapist who came in to start teaching my kids and everyone how to help me with my stretches and my exercise and that kind of thing. And he came in about 3 days after I got home. And it turns out that he was not only that, but he has two jobs. His other job is he's the director of the place where I went to go have my physical therapy done.
Hmm.
So I hired him to do my physical therapy here in my house for about 2 weeks. And then after he did 2 weeks of physical therapy, then he got me into his office over there, where I could do my continue my physical therapy there at the location. So I was in physical therapy within about 3 or 4 weeks after my
Okay.
accident. I went to go see uh, the urologist. I went to go see him about uh, about 3 or 4 days after my accident. No, sorry, about a week after my accident. And he then I got to talk to him about how my bowel movements were going to go, and what's really cool is that down here, even though I would pay for my doctor's visits, even after that, I had them on WhatsApp. So I'm like at the middle of the night, I could be like, "Hey, doctor, blah 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 blah," and he's like, "Oh yeah, hey, da 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 da," you know what I mean? And do try this, and then we're here. They're not afraid to like tell you, "Hey, go grab a little bit of olive oil and grab this thing and do this thing and do 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 do. Try that." You know what I mean? And you're like, "Wow, that's amazing how that works." You know what I mean? You get these old school like grandma, herbal recipes from a actual doctor. You know what I mean? Like, he's
Yeah.
not so quick to send you like take all this medication. You know what I mean? It's like no.
Yeah, they're like crack open an olive plant and stuff like that. So then when you did rehab here, when we do rehab, we have somebody come in and assess for wheelchair, your first wheelchair. So how did your first wheelchair and equipment go?
Yeah, so I went to they sent me same thing. They sent me to a place in San Diego, and because then they told me, hey, you can get free rehab and stuff like that. So I went into the rehab place for them to check me out, and they were like, okay, Angel, let's see how fast you go across this thing. And then, all right, let's see you transfer on this thing. And then, can you hold this thing up? And the guy's like, you know what, man, if you really want to come to rehab, it's cool. We'll pay, they're going to pay for it and everything like that. But, you're going to just kind of come here and hang out because I really don't have anything new to teach you. You're doing a lot of stuff on your own. Everything that we're going to teach you, you could do it right here. Um, so they so that was my experience in getting kind of like tested for my wheelchair. Um and but my first wheelchair, I ordered it off of Amazon. I ordered a regular wheelchair with the feet things that separate, and they brought me in and they brought the wheelchair down to me from San Diego, and I transferred into the wheelchair, and I got my first vertigo that I ever had in my life. So I got vertigo sitting up in my bed, and transfer over the chair, and I'm like, oh man, this is easy. So I got in the chair. I lasted about, I don't know, 15 minutes. and I was like, "Oh my god, this is way too hard. Put me back in the bed."
Um,
and,
yeah,
uh,
so
and so
where were you in San Diego? What rehab like was it like? What did they send you to?
Was it
I,
If you were there,
yeah,
if
the
not, it's
sharp,
fine.
yeah,
Sharps?
sharp.
Yeah, the big one, sharps.
Sharp,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, and they like let you hop into a chair that you just order off Amazon. Like they have like a chair that you could like get into or temporarily use or something. Like, and I mean, I'm trusting the chair you're in now is like not an Amazon chair. It's like an actual like, fitted real wheelchair.
Yeah. So again, so after the accident, I then filed for disability.
Okay.
So I filed for disability, and then that took a while for it to kick in. All that paperwork and everything, it was kind of crazy. So
Through
that took a few
Mexico.
months. So as soon as the disability kicked in, then they put you in through. They make you jump through all the hoops of, go through this. Then you got to go to the doctor. Then they assess you, and then from there, then you go to. Finally, they get you to the point where you're going to get a new wheelchair. Um, and they take you in. They have a guy come to your house, and he checks you there for this wheelchair that they're going to fit you for. Excuse me. Then you go to the place where. So I got my chair from New Motion in uh, in San Diego. The guy who came out was really nice, and he did a really good job of fitting me for the wheelchair. When I went recently to the Abilities Expo, and I was looking at some of the RGK wheelchairs there, and I was looking at some of the other people that were in these low back wheelchairs and stuff like that. And they looked at my wheelchair and they're like, "Man, everything that you do, what are you doing in that? Like your back is really high.
Mhm.
This is this and this is this." And I'm like, this is my first wheelchair. Like, I have no idea. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just like, oh, look, that one looks shiny. That one has two wheels. Give me that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
and and I started to realize like how expensive. Like I tell people, I'm like, you would think that being disabled was a luxury. It's like, dang, like stuff costs so much. Like my wheelchair that I'm in right now, like you look at it, you're like, okay, that thing cost me 500-600 bucks. Man, and when I look at the order thing that they had on there, it was 5 grand. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, no
New
wonder.
Motion billed my insurance for my electric wheelchair $100,000, $99,184. I mean, that is $100,000 vehicle that only goes 7.5 miles per hour and does lame ass tilting and stuff. Like, dang, where's my gosh darn $100,000 G wagon or Mercedes or whatever the heck, Like, dang, that's crazy. It's crazy. It's unreal. And I mean, similarly with healthcare costs, $40,000 for your surgery, a week hospital stay and stuff. I mean, I think the bill that we got for my initial stuff. I mean, when I got just my abdominal surgery, it was the surgery alone was I think like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like the hospital stay was like $15,000 a day for hospital services and stuff, and just I mean insane prices. Now, you touched on a lot of things, and just something to kind of help give a little summation to some of the things that you said. They never give you anything anywhere, people. Even here in the States, even here in California, I'd say is probably like one of the best places to be if you have a disability and stuff. They don't give you anything. They don't help you out with anything. They hardly even guide you in anything. And just to give a little bit more context, like I know somebody right now who has been injured for a year and still doesn't have a chair that I mean stuff like that still happens here in Los Angeles, California. And that is why it's so important for you to fight and advocate for yourself. It's the hardest thing, and not everybody is even in the position to do that, and then maybe they don't have somebody that can advocate for them. It's super hard. You gotta fight, you gotta fight every inch, you gotta fight for all your rehab. You got to fight for all of your equipment. You got to advocate. there are uh, systems in place to help assist with that, be it case managers and social workers and stuff that can help guide you and help navigate some of this and help teach you. But just one small little sliver part of it can be incredibly difficult and overwhelming and take weeks and months and years to navigate, let alone all of it. So Olivia said it. Being disabled sucks a lot of the time, and it can be very hard
People
some of the
text.
time. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible to receive meaningful services, receive meaningful rehab, to attain equipment that can help you be functional and independent and keep you safe and good while you're sitting and living in it and stuff. But you have to fight for it. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to talk and you have to work, and it's a whole lot, right, Angel? It can be a whole lot.
That's what it is, and it's great these kind of channels, these kind of channels like what you guys are doing with Live the Role that educate, because I think the scariest part is that when this does happen to you, it's not so much that you're not going to be able to walk again and all the other stuff, but it's just the scary part that the things that you need to, I want to say, survive. We don't know what that stuff is. I mean, there was so much stuff. I had so many questions when I first had my accident that I got on YouTube and I was just like looking around, like, okay, who has an answer for me? And there's so many great people out there like you guys that are
Live to
doing these
roll, baby. Yeah.
that help educate us, when we first get injured, that, tell us, little things like, I think one of the craziest questions that I had for myself, and I looked it up, was, as a paraplegic, can we throw up? Um,
Eh,
and like, I
sounds like somebody
unfortunately
likes
got
their
that question
cervezas.
answered.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody likes their cervezas because you said something about like, oh, I hate going to a restaurant. Why go if I can't go to the bathroom?
So yeah, I found out that so I got food poisoning one time, and I found out that because you use all your abdominals to be able to throw up, like, and so
Yeah.
um, I realized that you can, and so it's just little things like that that are weird questions that sometimes we have as a paraplegic. People have asked me, "Do you ever feel hungry?" Because your stomach, you would feel it from there, and that was a question of mine too when I first had the accident. So there's these little things that we would think are insignificant, to know, but they're stuff that are real questions that your mind goes to after you end up in a wheelchair.
Yeah, because we
Yeah.
don't really. Most people don't know a whole lot about spinal cord injury or disability, so
I
those are
mean,
all. Yeah,
you still go to the top doctor and you're like, I get this little sweat right here on the back, and they're like, yeah, you know, do you know
Well,
when it comes on? You're like, no, it just sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, and they're like, yeah, hard to say.
Angry Quad just said in the chat too, the real questions are the ones you don't even know to ask. I can't tell you how many times that like I've left appointments and stuff with like 100 more questions than I had even before going in there, because like I just didn't even know what to ask at the time until like I got more information, more context, and similarly like just being at home and living life, sometimes you just don't even know you're feeling things, or you're, like things are hard, things are difficult, whatever. You don't even know who to ask, what to ask, like how to figure this out and begin to navigate it. And it can be very, very scary, and it can be very overwhelming and super difficult. That's why I think community and support is one of the best things in the world. At least like being able to talk to guys like Shawn and Bobby and Angel and everybody in the chat, and going to support groups and meeting other individuals in chairs and stuff, hearing about their experiences gave me a lot of insight and understanding, even, being 20 years after the fact. Living, sometimes it helped give me insight and understanding on things that I've been experiencing my whole life. But it wasn't until I heard somebody else describe it or explain it themselves that I was like, oh shit, like, oh man, that's crazy. Like that's what I've been feeling and dealing with my whole life. So yeah, that's why I think it's important to find community and stuff, because sometimes we are the only ones that that do know and understand, or go through and understand similar experiences. I mean, even the most learned spinal cord injury specialist in the world doesn't have a spinal cord injury. They may have more complex understanding of the physiology surrounding SCI and some of the nuances and side effects and stuff, but without really having lived it and gone through it, it's very difficult, I think, to relate and understand and uh, communicate some of this stuff. But that's why we're here having the conversation we do every week and multiple times a week, is to talk about and share those experiences. Hopefully, others can relate to, ask questions and stuff, and just hopefully be a resource through the benefit of our lived experience. Um, so
And
yeah.
And yeah, if you guys want to follow Angel, I actually realized right when we started the show, I misspelled your Instagram on here. It's The Real Frost, but it's REEL. So I have it right in the description. I know I typed it right there, so you can click on that, follow that. Make sure you check Angel out. Because also, you want to also just real quickly, because we are getting close to the hour, you want to explain your living situation, where, because you're in your like home office right now. Um, so if you want to briefly explain, and I can show a couple pictures, and I know you have a cool video of how you traverse some of the stuff.
Yeah, and tell
Your
us what,
two-story home.
let them know what your Frost FX Studios does.
So I actually rent here a 2-story house. And I mainly got into this place because the bathroom was big enough for me to get into. I was explaining to Shawn actually when we met that the master bedroom is actually upstairs. I had a choice to put my bed downstairs and just use the upstairs as storage, and I refused to be taken down by stairs. And so I was actually offered the electric chair to go up the stairs. But ever since the movie Gremlins, I've been kind of afraid of that chair. So those who know. and and so anyway, so I was, it's really funny. Ever since my accident, because of my ingenuity side that I have, I try to come up with all these little ideas. So what I did is, you can see in that pictures, I installed a rope, attached it to the bottom wall, and attached it to the top part of the wall. And so what I do is the same way I taught my son to go down the stairs is the same way I figured I could go up the stairs. So what I do is I transfer to the bottom steps, and then I grab the rope, and I then pull my legs to me. I go up one step, bring my both my legs up to the next step, grab the rope, pull myself up to the next one, go all the way up top, and I leave a chair upstairs, up on the top of the stairs. So then the very end, I use the top wall there to lift myself up into my chair upstairs. Then I go in, jump into my transfer in the shower to take a shower, go to my room. Now, I was telling Sean is that I started the gym actually. So what's even harder is I go to the gym for an hour at night. I come home, then I still have to get up my stairs,
Oh,
go
I
up
overdid it.
the
I
chair,
overdid
into
it.
my shower, and then
Like you are the gym. That your house
Yeah,
is the gym.
that's a hell of a.
and
It's
then
super impressive.
I've gone
Yeah.
there. I get home from the gym, and I look at the stairs, and I'm like, nah, I think I'm sleeping on the couch tonight.
Let's see how bad I smell. Yeah, I'm not smelling bad today, so I'm gonna sleep down here.
That's super impressive. I love the ingenuity. I like the attitude too. Like I'm not letting stairs get in my way. Like I love that attitude, and it's just very impressive. Kind of like idea and engineering and perseverance to tackle those steps, because I'm sure, and I've been there too. Like where I hit the gym like too hard, and I like got to come home and like do all my personal care and my transfers and stuff, and I'm just like, oh my god, like what did I do to myself? Like I'm moving slow, hard. But it's all a part of it, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But no, that's very, very cool.
There's
Have
always
you?
a way.
I'm already picturing how to make it better for you, Angel. Like watching a lot of rock climbers. I'm thinking like doing some kind of carabiner, you should like look into doing a carabiner where you can hook your feet and your butt underneath. So they're
Not
dangling
to
and you just,
drag it. Yeah.
yeah. So you're just
But
like,
I've tried it. In my head, when I originally put the system together, I had like this idea where I was gonna grab it and I was gonna kind of like go like this, and I actually did it, and I was like, okay, this is not working. So not only do I go up the stairs at night, but because I live alone, so I do my own laundry, I do all that kind of stuff. So then once I do my laundry, most of the time at night, I have my backpack that has all my stuff in it. So when I go up, I also have to take up all my laundry to go fold it upstairs.
huh.
I take the backpack, I take all that stuff. So I have to. So what I do is I kind of like bring it and I put it behind me, and then I go up one step and then I grab it and then bring it up another one until I get far enough in there, and then I can throw it backwards like this to get it all the way
Yeah,
up the stairs, and then I go up. But
Damn.
me
that's
going
awesome.
up the stairs,
Laundry's a workout too, man. That's a that is
there's a thing called an elevator. Maybe you might want to look into.
yeah.
No.
I was just gonna say they do have stair elevators, right? Like now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is the case right now, but as you do age and like you're using your shoulders and your arms so much, it's just a reality of like wear and tear. There are stair lifts and modern solutions that you can maybe transfer onto a seat and have a little like rail that takes you up there instead of having to pull yourself up. But it's just like you do what you got to do. I mean, like necessity like is a mother of like invention, right? Like sometimes I don't know, I live alone too, and sometimes you just got to do something. And I don't know, I always like think back to this story like I just moved out. My mom and moved out because she stayed with me for the first like 6 weeks, and I was like truly on my own for like the first couple weeks. And I dropped a book, and it wasn't like a book I could leave at home. It was like my notebook with all my assignments and stuff in it. And I was like, how the hell? I was like, look, go. I had to go to class. I had 15 minutes. I just was like brainstorming, thinking like, what the hell was I gonna do? I was so bummed, thinking I was gonna need to leave it behind, but I saw a bag, like an empty bag nearby, and I grab her, and my brain just put two and two together. I'm like, maybe I could get it into the bag, and then I could hook the bag and pick the bag up. And dude, that like became my best move for like getting heavier things up off the ground and stuff. And it seems kind of awkward and wonky, and it's just like a couple extra steps, but it gets the job done. And I can't think of a better, more efficient way outside of maybe like cool robot arms that I can't afford or don't exist yet. So here's what I got for now, and I'm gonna make it work. And like that's what I see like with your ropes and the knots and the pulley system. Like it probably takes a little bit extra time and it's a few steps in between, but it gets the job done. And like that's super cool. Like whatever works, and as
I,
long
I
as you're
don't
able
think
to
I've
do it.
met I don't think I've met one disabled person, and I've said this to someone, and I tell them as soon as you become disabled, you automatically become an engineer.
oh
Like
yeah,
Uh-huh.
you do.
like every one of us has had these stories where we are just like, and it's one of those things where it's kind of that, survive or die kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I need this thing. Again, I'm not making it so like dramatic, but like in my place, I have very tall spots now. I do have a standing wheelchair that I use now.
Uh-huh.
But when I don't want to get it out and I don't want to transfer over to it, I'll have like cereal up on the top, and I'll just be like, oh, if I throw this thing, it'll hit it, and I'll have this thing and it'll hit it and slide down to me, and I'm just like, wow, that actually worked, kind of like Tom's story.
We
You become an engineer right away. Like every day of
Yeah,
your life, you're thinking about, wait a second, I need to get this done. Let me put, we automatically become MacGyver. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
that's
Oh,
totally,
I've seen
dude.
guys they drive with instead of hand controls, they just drive with golf sticks and just tape the golf stick around their gas
If
pedal
you're
and brake.
operating a motor vehicle and you have the potential to risk other individuals on the road, we do not recommend or suggest
No, no, I'm just
alternative
saying.
methods of using a golf stick to drive. But no,
thank you
I'm
for
with
the
you,
disclaimer,
Angel,
Tom.
in
And that
that
was the rifle ones I've seen people drive with. I mean, and I was the same way. Just like my wife made a comment the other day because I have this scooter attachment that it's hard to take the bracket off, and sometimes just to take the scooter portion off as well. So there's two things I have to take off, and I MacGyvered that thing out with zip ties. They were like my best friends, to have these straps stay on, and the way I can just get to it and clip out of it. And so the other day I was in and out all day because we went to a football game, and it was nice to get out of it and all independent on my own, because my buddy's looking at it going, dang, you really did a great job there.
Yeah.
Now, as we continue to go over time, which is fine because I like long episodes and I just want to keep on talking. I really want to hear about Frost Studios, Angel. I feel like this is the last puzzle piece we're missing to your story and who you are and what you do. But you got all the gear, so tell us about it.
So I actually started building my first thing when I was 18 years old. I built a haunted house, and I did it to put together funds for a charity. So I've always had this love and passion for film and television. So I started really young, making costumes and doing things like that. When my son he got old enough to understand what a monster was, I ended up stopping doing the haunted houses and scary monsters. So a friend of mine invited me to Comic Con in San Diego, and so we went there, and I fell in love, and I was like, "Oh my god, I could dress up all year round. This is amazing."
Yeah.
And so I've always I worked in acting since I was really young. I've always been a huge fan of film and television, and I started taking special effects courses before my accident, and because that's what I wanted to dedicate the rest of my life to is working in special effects makeup. And boom, I had the accident, and I had every opportunity to just kind of give up and say that was it, only because special effects and the film industry is so demanding. um, People that know about the film industry, they are it's not for the faint hearted. It's for people that are ready to put in 12, 15, 20 hours a day, remote locations, really tough spots, things like that. So I said to myself, man, I don't know if I could really even continue doing this, being a disabled paraplegic. And as far as I know, there is not another disabled special effects makeup artist. And I say that because there's a lot of makeup artists, but the demanding part of a special effects makeup artist is that we work with really heavy molds. So
Oh,
they require a lot of upper body. And me being such a high paraplegic, I don't have any core. So as you guys know, we don't have any stability. We don't have any of that thing to help us. So I've had to come up with so actually, just out of pure coincidence, I have like a small. This is my face cast right here. This is one of the molds that I have. This weighs about maybe about 20 pounds.
Wow.
And then you have your negative pieces where the molds are at.
uh,
This one is a small one. This one weighs probably about 8 pounds. But I have worked with some that are around 50, 60 pounds. So I've had to create these devices in order for me to be able to demold them myself. And I've had the lucky opportunity to already work on a few short films, and long films, as they call them. I haven't done any feature yet. Um, but that's what I do. So now I'm dedicating to making monsters, and hopefully, my dream right now, is a quick dream, is to hopefully work on maybe like a Disney film of showing that even as a paraplegic, even as someone with a disability, you don't have to let those dreams go. You can keep shooting for them, and all you have to do is adapt. That's what we are. We have an adaptive lifestyle, so we adapt to those things that are needed that can be done. And that's kind of what I do with my studio is I show how I can do it even as a paraplegic, and continue to do what I love to do, and what my dream was is to be a special effects makeup artist.
that's
That's really
amazing, Angel. Super inspiring, man. And you just said it. Let there be no obstacles to your dreams. Be them physical or otherwise. If you have a passion for something, it's something that you love to do. That old saying, like, if there's a will, there's a way. Especially nowadays, there's a answer and a solution for everything. I feel like if you have a means to work at it and find it. And Yeah. So last question, and we'll do our little outro. Do you have any advice for any other individuals and chairs? New to it or not? What's one piece of advice you got for them?
I think if I had to say anything is just to we are left on this earth for a reason. There's still always a plan, no matter what you have. No matter the your disability, your new, old, whatever it is, make it count. I looked at the point of me surviving my accident, not so much as like, oh wow, now I'm left as a paraplegic, as much as wow, what do I have still left to give back to my fellow humans, my fellow people, and taking advantage of that to live life. I was given a second chance. Live it, enjoy it, do what you love to do, find a way to do what you love to do. Don't stop that. You know what I mean? There's always a way. Maybe you can't do it at the capacity you were doing before, but maybe you can still do it in another form. There's so much stuff out there for us as a disabled community, and don't feel free to reach out. I mean, I don't know, I'm sure you guys are the same way. I never there's literally nothing that you can ask me that I won't be happy to answer,
Yep.
personal or otherwise. I am more than happy to answer it with every love part in my heart. You know what I mean? Doesn't
Uh-huh.
bother me one bit. um you know uh Things are just so crazy out there right now. Um, that's all I could say is just enjoy life, live life, ask questions, and use that ingenuity, and let's just keep showing that we can keep on living our lives. If you don't give up on your dreams, then we'll show everybody else, because you know what? The first thing people that happens to someone when they get in an accident like this is they become disabled here first, and
Yeah.
then you deal with the disability everywhere else. So don't fall into that. Just, hey, take a breath. Like I said earlier in the show, have yourself some good cries, wipe yourself off, and say, all right, today's another day. Let's attack it.
I love it.
That's
That's
perfect.
beautiful.
That was great. Yeah.
Um, no, it's amazing, and we appreciate you, Angel. I'm gonna do like a quick little 1 minute outro for all of our stuff. All right, sponsors and our shows this week. Be real quick, and then Sean's gonna wrap it up. Shout out to mobility professionals and urology professionals. We love you guys for continuing to support the Live to Roll channel. Mobility Pros is a rehabilitation equipment company here in Southern California. We need wheelchairs, standing frames, shower chairs, other similar rehab equipment. They are your company. Also, their sister company, Urology Professionals, is anywhere in the US of A. They specialize in urological supplies. So if you find yourself in need of a new catheter supplier or anything like that, give them a call, give them some love, and let them know that Live to Roll sent you, because we get a lot of love from them. We want to give a lot of love back to them. I am doing some adaptive gaming tomorrow right here on this channel. It's a great time. Going to be hanging out with a couple cool peeps from the chat and from our crew and the Live Pro family. Come hang out with us. It's awesome. And on Thursday, Bobby and the boys, Bob, and Luis are coming at you with another great Rolling Over the Hill. It's one of our most awesome, fun shows, and you don't want to miss it. So join us tomorrow and Thursday right here. And always, next Tuesday, we'll be back with another great episode. Wrap it up, Shawnee boy.
All right, yeah. So yeah, thanks Angel again for coming on. Thanks everybody in the chat. We appreciate you guys. We will see you guys next week for another awesome show. Make sure to check out the gaming tomorrow. Bobby's rolling over the hill Thursday. great lineup of stuff, guys. So live to roll. See you guys next week.